cannibalism. She says her family has been involved in rituals for generations. She is currently in extensive therapy, suffers from multiple personality disorder, meaning she's blocked out many of the terrifying and painful memories of her childhood. Meet Rachel, who is also in disguise to protect her identity. You come from generations of ritualistic abuse?
Yes, my family has an extensive family tree, and they keep track of who's been involved and who hasn't been involved. And it's gone back to, like, 1700.
And so you were...
Right. I was born into a family that believes in this.
And does everyone else think it's a nice Jewish family? From the outside, you appear to be a nice Jewish girl?
Definitely.
And you all are worshiping the devil inside the home?
Right. There's other Jewish families across the country. It's not just my own family.
Really? And so who knows about it? Lots of people now.
I talked to a police detective in the Chicago area, and several of my friends know, and I've spoke publicly before. And
so when you were brought up in this kind of evilness, did you just think it was normal?
I've blocked out a lot of the memories I had because of my multiple personality disorder. But yes, I mean, it's like if you grow up with something, you think it's normal.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought
So what kinds of things? You don't have to give us the gory details, but what kinds of things went on in the family?
Well, there would be rituals in which babies would be sacrificed, and you would have to, you know...
Whose babies?
There were people who bred babies in our family. No one would know about it. A lot of people were overweight, so you couldn't tell if they were pregnant or not, or they would supposedly go away for a while and then come back. The other thing I want to point out, not all Jewish people sacrifice babies. I mean,
no.
It's not a very
typical thing.
I just want to point that out.
This is the first time I heard of any Jewish people sacrificing babies. But anyway, so you witnessed the sacrifice?
Right. When I was very young, I was forced to participate in that, in which I had to sacrifice an infant.
And the purpose of sacrifice is to what? Is to bring you what? What are you sacrificing for?
For power.
Uh-huh. Power. And so, were you ever used? Were you ever used yourself?
I was molested. I was raped several times.
Mm-hmm. And what's your mother doing?
She's...
In all of this? What's her role in all of this?
I'm not exactly what her role is. I haven't, recovered all of my memories, but her family was extremely involved. Mm-hmm. She brought me to it. Both of my parents brought me to it.
And where is she now?
She lives in the Chicago metropolitan area. She's on the Human Relations Commission of the town that she lives in, and she's an upstanding citizen. Nobody would suspect her.
Were you raised with a sense of right and wrong, Rachel?
Yes. I mean, it's like I had both. I mean, to the outside world, everything we did was proper and right, and then there were the nights that things changed, that things just got turned around. What was wrong was right, and what was right was wrong. That's what helps to create somebody to develop MPD.
Mm-hmm. Multiple personalities.
Right.
Now, in your family, did you all call it worshiping the devil?
No,
Rachel, or
I don't know.
It was just evil, these things you did.
Right. Well, I said it was evil, and they said it was good. There's a book that I had just come across called Lilith's Cave, which is a book of Jewish mysticism and supernatural, and there's a lot in that book that relates to what I, endured when I was a child.
Welcome back. Today we have a special guest. What can I call you? Spud? Aiden? Which one? Doesn't matter. Today we will be continuing the topic basically of the 1980 Satanic Panic, but as you might have seen in the previous episode, we kind of glazed over it, but a key part in it was a book called Michelle Remembers. And it was basically about this woman who has had experiences throughout multiple cults basically gave details of what happened, and she had these widespread claims that she was supposed to be the wife of the devil and was supposed to eventually have her child, but never, like, ended up getting out of it before she could like get pregnant, basically. In 1980, a controversial sensationalist book appeared that would come to be seen as a flashpoint in a spreading moral panic. Michelle Remembers claimed to record recovered memories of satanic ritual abuse from a woman's childhood. Over time, the work has been largely discredited, yet its influence reverberated for decades. In this video, we're going on a 2-hour deep dive: the claims, the psychology, the controversies, and the legacies. And remember to take it all with a grain of salt. Michelle Remembers was co-written by a psychiatrist, Lawrence Pazder. Sorry for the mispronunciation, I'm just gonna call her Lawrence. And his patient, Michelle Smith. Later, Michelle Smith Pazder. Pazder and Smith claim to have recorded 600 plus hours of therapy sessions over about 14 months using hypnosis and memory retrieval techniques. The narrative is presented as a reconstruction of Smith's repressed memories dating to her early childhood, circulating in 1954 and 1955, allegedly suppressed until the time was right. The claims are structured like transcripts or clinical notes interleaved with narrative, giving the sense of an inside look into therapy.
Smith says she was 5 years old when the first ritual occurred, and that she participated or witnessed satanic cult ceremonies involving torture, sexual abuse, infant sacrifice, dismemberment, blood rituals, cages, dark chanting, and supernatural appearances, like Satan, the Virgin Mary, and Archangel Michael. One especially dramatic claim: an 81-day ritual culminating in a confrontation with Satan, interrupted by the Virgin Mary / Michael intervening and removing the scars from her body and masking her memory until later. Over the course of the sessions, the narrative escalates from local rituals to a global conspiracy of cults predating Christianity. Pazder initially claimed the Church of Satan was involved in the assertion and was later retracted under legal threat. The book also describes dramatic cinematic scenes such as
Mausoleum.
Mausoleum ritual rebirth. Sorry about that. Dyslexic. Being enclosed in a grave with a mewling cat. Sorry, Jesus Christ. And people dancing and hissing like cats and poisoning, among others. There we go. Let's go. There's some big words in there, and I got through them.
Dude, don't worry. Some days after work, I'll sit here and struggle for like a good half hour. The rhetorical framing and literary style. The presentation is part memoir, part therapy record, part religious/spiritual intervention. The authors use vivid, emotionally charged descriptions, frequent appeals to authority, like the therapist's expertise, and rhetorical devices intended to produce shock, moral urgency, and emotional persuasion. The style leans heavily on sensational imagery, like blood sacrifice, demonic presence, which makes it read in places more like horror or religious thriller than convention case studies. The narrative also appeals to Christian cosmology, invoking Satan, angels, Virgin Mary, and spiritual warfare, blending theology and clinical recovery. So basically, it's sounding like this man. It almost sounds like a MK Ultra experiment. I was gonna say, do you know much about the MK Ultra experiments? They were very, ooh, it was very interesting when they hid it all from the public, but they did so poorly, and yet they still hid it, but only when they released like a bunch of files recently did they did they release all what happened in Project MK Ultra. It was basically like a for mind control using trying to see if they can use mind control using like drugs,
Yeah.
mostly LSD. But
They essentially tried to psychologically brainwash you with drugs. Okay.
yeah, and then on top of not just drugs, they also split up into schools. Like I don't know if you ever know about I don't remember his first name, but his last name is Lizinski, and he was the Unabomber. And basically, when he was in school, he took a class where the teacher was an ex Project MK Ultra, I want to say leader, probably just some kind of researcher. But of course, they didn't know that. And like the whole thing was that they were trying to, they would make the students come in each week, give their like basically their 2 cents on what's going on in the world and how they think they can fix it, or like on certain things that they believe in or that they like just trust in, you know. And then his whole job was to basically say, no, you're wrong, actually no, and just break them down, trying to tell them that they're wrong and then tell them something else. But then the fucked up part was when they tried to learn that, he would still tell them no. And it was very brain fucky, you know? It was to see how much you could mentally wipe someone without, I guess.
Crazy. They just openly admitted to doing that.
Basically, but I'm not saying this guy was a part of MK Ultra.
Oh yeah. But it's very similar.
Yeah, it's very MK Ultra-y.
It feels like he did a lot of like stuff that isn't exactly like science, and is trying to pass it off as science.
Yeah. The 1970s/early 1980s cultural milieu. The late 1970s saw a growing public fascination with the occult, cults, New Age movements, Satanism, and various conspiracy theories. Works such as The Exorcist, 1971, and popular media coverage of cults, occult rumors, and moral decline contributed to cultural anxieties. The concept of repressed memory and hypnosis had some traction in psychiatry and psychotherapy, especially in relation to trauma, and disassociation through the science was shaky.
Recovered memory movement. The idea that traumatic memories can be suppressed and repressed and then later retrieved vis-a-vis like hypnosis and guided imagery. Proponents argued that this undercover hidden abuse, especially sexual, that the patient cannot otherwise recall. But critics, notably like memory researchers like Elizabeth Loftus, warned that memory is not reconstructive, malleable, susceptible to suggestion, and that false memories are a serious risk. Loftus has famously argued that people do not recall past events verbatim. Memory is a reconstruction influenced by present cues, beliefs, and suggestion. Over time, many professional bodies have disavowed repressed memory as a reliable concept. The recovered memory paradigm became deeply controversial.
I know, right? It feels good to like perfectly execute a paragraph and then butcher the rest. No, I'm just kidding.
Dude, yeah, because then the next one's just gonna come out like garbage, and the garbage just goes on.
Media, social anxiety, and the rise of moral panic. Michelle Remembers hit a receptive audience. It was serialized or featured in outlets like People magazine and the National Enquirer. The authors toured in the US promoting it, and it became a bestseller, securing a large advance and substantial rights. At the same time, the public climate was primed to fear hidden predators, conspiracies, satanic cults, and abused children. The work tapped into deep anxieties about childhood vulnerability, cultural decay, and secret evil. The book served as kind of template or prototype for many later accusations of satanic ritual abuse. As the 1980s progressed, the McMartin preschool, which we've mentioned in the previous episode, trial 1983 to 1990, is often cited as a culminating example of the spread of ritual abuse allegations in daycare settings. Pazder consulted on that case. The FBI's Lanning report in 1991 later reviewed many cases involved multi-victim, multi-offender alleged satanic ritual abuse, and found no credible physical evidence backing these claims. As the years passed, growing skepticism emerged and the panic subsided through echoes remain. But basically the McMartin preschool trial, it was an old man and an old woman, right? Well, I think at the time, I can't really explain it, but we did talk about it in the previous episode, kind of, once again, something else that we glazed over. But they were accused of satanic rituals and abusing the preschool children there, and like basically it started as one kid saying something, and then all the kids started saying something, and they went to trial, and it was a really long trial, I do believe.
Hundreds of acts is crazy.
Yeah, and I do believe they came out of like all of it not guilty, which was even crazier. Because like how
they
do
really
you
thought it was just kids saying hearsay.
Yeah, like it really shows you the power of the power of children.
To date, no independent, verifiable physical evidence supports most of the specific claims, and Michelle remembers. Critics have pointed to contradictions in the narrative. For instance, yearbook photos from 1955 show Michelle in school, whereas the book claims she was imprisoned in the basement that month. The author's own family members, father and sisters, disputed many of the allegations. Michelle's father, Jack Proby, publicly denied accusations against his wife and claimed the book misinterpreted facts. There's 3 specific lies. The Mail on Sunday did a 2-week investigation, eliciting quotes from neighbors, the family doctor, and acquaintances, many of whom described Michelle's claims as imaginative or false. Some investigators have noted that many of the narrative elements seem drawn from popular fiction or sensationalism of secret societies, rather than consistent with known religious or occult traditions. Scholar Nicholas Sopanos pointed out that the involvement of supernatural encounters, Satan and angels, renders many claims untestable and borders on religious myth rather than empirical history.
Psychological critiques and memory science. The memory retrieval process used by Pazder and Smith is deeply vulnerable to suggestion, leading questions, therapist influence, and confirmation bias. Many memory researchers argue that under hypnosis or guided imaginary, like we were talking about, people are especially prone to false memory creation because formal therapy transcripts and tapes are not fully made available. Independent audit is difficult. What is accessible is selective. Over time, many professional organizations like psychology, psychiatry,
Sorry.
memory research have expressed skepticism or disavowed the idea of memory repression and reliable recovery of highly traumatic experiences after decades of forgetting. The book's authors present and recovered content as literal truth rather than as a hypothesis or narrative. which violates norms of academic or clinical caution. Ethical, methodological, and recreal criticisms.
Alright. The dual role of Pazder as both therapist and author, and eventually husband, raises severe conflicts of interest. Patient confidentiality, objectivity, boundary issues, the power differential in the therapist-patient relationship means that suggestions from the therapist carry weight. There's no independent peer review, no external verification, and the narrative is not presented with the transparency one would need to treat it as scientific or reliable. Many of the ritual details are inconsistent, exaggerated, or implausible. Even historical, geographic, or physical constraints, for example, the Ross Bay Cemetery mausoleum is too small to accommodate the large ritual described. No record of a major car crash on the Mahalat Highway matching the narrative timeline. Pazder withdrew claims associating the Church of Satan after Anton LaVey threatened a liable suit, showing internal instability in the text claims.
Dude, I don't know. I think it's kind of funny how this bitch literally went out, wrote an entire book, makes like years worth of claims, like I'm talking in great detail, goes on Oprah's show to where everyone knows how graphic it was, to the point where she says you don't have to go in detail, and then like still says that she was like molested, you know, etc. And it's just like, oh my god, you have, how do you lie? Like, look, man, I'll be honest, right now it's a 50-50 with me if she's telling the truth or not. But I mean, obviously, if the investigations are catching nothing, it also doesn't mean that this ritual is so high case that they were able just to hide everything, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, what a, oh.
Is this the inventor of gaslighting?
Retrospective scholarly assessment and contextualizing Michelle remembers. In Oxford Handbook of New Religious Movements, James R. Lewis, which we'll come back to in a second, characterizes Michelle Remembers as needing great skepticism due to its internal contradictions and lack of support. The book is widely cited by critics as founding document of the satanic ritual abuse panic, though not a reliable one. Many subsequent accusations in the US and abroad mimicked the structure and language of Michelle Remembers. For example, themes of secret tunnels, infants in cages, demonic possession. The contagion effect of ritual abuse narratives led to wrongful investigations, ruined reputations, and legal cases with little to no evidence. The 2023 documentary Satan Wants You directly examines Michelle Remembers as a catalyst of satanic panic. Alright, so, real quick, James R. Lewis. I'm sure you're reading something pretty interesting. That man is responsible, James R. Lewis is responsible for the Tylenol murders. I don't remember what year, but, yeah, that was a pretty interesting case where, oh, dude, I don't remember if it's the same Tylenol murders, but basically, he just went into, a couple of, I would say, CVS's here in America, took some Tylenol bottles, and took them home, put some random pills of cyanide in them, like, enough I think it was, like, 1,000 times the lethal dose, which, dude, that's fucking nuts. Enough to kill an elephant, if you're interested. And basically, he was only one of the people caught, because, believe it or not, this was a I wouldn't say nationwide, but it was a few states apart that it was happening at different places. So they only caught one guy, and it was James R. Lewis. Were you able to find out what year it took place?
1982 murders, but was never charged with the deaths, which killed 7 people. He was convicted of extortion for sending a letter to Johnson & Johnson demanding $1 million to stop the poisoning.
Yep.
And he was arrested. It says here.
He was only one of the people to do it. That, like, I'm telling you, it's crazy. The craziest theory is that he didn't even do it and just wrote the letter just to try to get some money and take credit out of it. But like,
so he was arrested in '83 and then spent 12 years in jail for extortion.
And
They couldn't connect him to the actual murders though.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. This man's talking shit on some satanic shit, and then goes out and he's like I could imagine he's writing an angry letter, right? As he's putting Tylenol in, not Tylenol, fucking cyanide.
Cyanide, yeah.
Yeah, man, this book is so shit. Grabs another handful, puts it in a bottle. And man, and what I hate about this.
In this section, move beyond true false and treat the text as a cultural object. What does Michelle Remembers mean within its time? As a symptom, not just a claim. Okay, I wanted to make sure that was what it was supposed to be. Below are some speculative lenses and interpretations. Trauma, memory, and cultural imagination. Michelle Remembers taps into the deep anxieties about childhood, abuse, and the unconscious. Even if the specific claims are fiction, the format gives the voice to fears of hidden violence and corrupted innocence. The recovered memory narrative parallels a mythic structure. A protagonist descends into the darkness, a repressed past, and returns enlightened, purified, or saved. In the 1980s cultural imagination, it resonated with fears that the surface of everyday life might hide occult danger. Conspiracy, secrecy, and institutional distrust. That word's gonna fuck me up every time. The text is rooted in the logic of conspiracy, secret cabals, hidden rituals, insiders, coded language, and complicit silence. It plays into the trope that official channels suppress the truth. This aligns with border cultural currents, the distrust of institutions, government, psychiatry, and religions. Fascination with hidden knowledge and the belief in cover-ups. I mean, it makes sense. In the 80s, they didn't trust anyone.
Yeah, and the researchers they did have, it was very bare bones, if you will.
The 80s wasn't known for being very thorough.
Yeah, it was. Witch!
Burn the witch! They're trying to bring me into a cult, Donnie. What do I do, Donnie?
The women want power! They can read.
When my wife learned how to read.
Religious cosmology and spiritual warfare. The invocation of Christian symbols like Satan, Michael, and Mary makes the narrative spiritually charged. The claim is that the spiritual realm intervened to block memory until disclosure was safe. The text frames the recovered memories is not merely events, but as spiritual warfare in which the protagonist is both victim and the background. This hybridity blurs lines between theology, therapy, and conspiracy, making the narrative compelling to those with religious sensibilities or spiritual anxieties. Gender, power, and the figure of the child. The claimant is a female child, powerless and malleable. Many to the perpetrators are adult, including possibly her mother. This plays into deep anxieties around maternal betrayal, domestic space as site of evil, female sexuality and control. The voice of the child, represented voiceless, is recovered by the expert, the male psychiatrist, that dynamic raises the power and voice questions who gets to speak, interpret, and rescue the child. Because child abuse is such a potent moral trigger, the narrative weaponizes moral panic and protective impulses. I'll just finish off this part.
That's right, you'll finish.
I already did.
Oh, okay. I'll take that with a grain of salt.
The text as moral panic generator. Michelle Remembers is not just a passive text, but a performative agent. It intervened in culture, influencing prosecutors, therapists, media, and the public. It is a case study in how sensational narratives can reshape institutional behavior, how belief can feed investigation, rather than the reverse. In that sense, it anticipates later conspiracy phenomena, QAnon, Pizzagate, etc., in the logic of hidden evil, insiders, and suppressed knowledge.
Michelle Remembers is widely recognized today as discredited, yet it still has cultural and symbolic resonance. Its influence on the Satanic Panic was profound, as it essentially provided a roadmap for ritual abuse allegations in daycares and other, community places and such. The 2023 documentary Satan Wants You treats Michelle Remembers as a ground zero for the moral panic. Some modern conspiracy theories, particularly those involving hidden evil networks, pedophilia, echo the rhetorical structure of Michelle Remembers. Some commentators draw lines between Michelle Remembers, the Satanic Panic, and more recent conspiracy belief systems. Memory is fallible. We must approach recovered memory claims with epistemic humility and scientific rigor. Power and boundary integrity in therapy are vital. Dual relationships, such as therapists as the author's spouse, are deeply fraught. Narrative seduction is strong. Emotionally powerful stories can persuade even when unsupported by evidence. Institutional reflex, belief can drive investigations, not always as evidence. We must guard against moral panic. Critical literacy is essential in consuming sensational or conspiratorial claims. Cross-check, evaluate evidence quality, consider motive, and demand transparency.
Michelle Remembers is not simply a relic, it's a cautionary tale about the seductive power of narrative, the fragility of memory, and the dangers when fear and authority coalesce. I hope this video gives not only a detailed account of the book's claims and criticisms, but also a lens through which to view fear, belief, and storytelling shape what we call reality. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and remember, take it all with a grain of salt. I think we can call that a wrap.